Hi, let's talk about the 10 things you can learn from surveying your podcast audience. That's right, the people that are listening, like yourself, to the podcast. What things can you ask them to better understand and know your audience? It's an important part of broadcasting is knowing your audience. So you can go with the first thing on the list. I've got this link in the show notes if you go to the GeyerCookReport.podbean.com. I've got them linked in there under the survey questions. So the audience statistics is the first thing you can find out where they're from, what time they're listening, etc. And then you can ask for feedback on the show format. Is it too short? Is it too colorful? Is there too many graphics on the video portion when you're doing it to YouTube as well? So is there any value provided to your listeners? Are they taking a pearl away from that oyster, as oftentimes I've said, and in the hopes that you do that today too? There's where the listeners found your show is a question. Like, did they find it on Podbean? Did they find it on Apple Podcast? There's a number of channels, and they're all the usual suspects contained therein. Listener-driven content inspiration. If there's a question, maybe you could say, well, what would you like to know about? What's the next podcast episode you're looking forward to hearing? Specific feedback on show content. We talked about that earlier, just talking about how the show is put together and how the content is arranged. And what the listeners dislike about this show. Almost every podcast I listen to, I can find something to say, oh, I don't like this about that. So be careful. Testing your assumptions. Now, if you're assuming that your audience, take the Geyer Cook Report, for example. I assume the audience is pretty darn busy getting through the course of their day. And so they don't have time for a big, long episode of podcast. So it's short. And then establishing a listening schedule. I've got information on yours truly that the best time for me to post Monday through Thursday is at 9 p.m. On Friday, 6 a.m. I still have yet to identify why that's the case, but that's what they're telling me, the analytics program that I follow. And then the last question is evaluation of the podcast guest reception. Like, did they really like the guest I had, or did they go, why is that person even on the show? That offered me no insights, no wisdom. So there you have it. Those are 10 steps. So like I said, I've got the link in the show notes. If you need to get more information, there's a link in there on it. The things you can learn from surveying your podcast audience. Thanks for taking time out of your day. And like I said, time's important. So it's a wrap.